Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So today we're going to talk about an artist whose work I'm sure you have seen everywhere. It's instantly recognizable.
Oh, absolutely. Across social media, art platforms,
Yeah.
you see a WLOP piece, you know it's a WLOP piece.
Exactly. But the story behind the art, behind Wang Ling, is, well, it's pretty surprising.
It really is, and I think that's why this deep dive is so important. WLOP, he kind of represents this huge shift in how art gets made today.
Because he's not from a traditional art school, right?
Not at all. He's a Chinese software engineer. He taught himself everything, starting from zero. And yet, I mean, his success is just staggering.
We're talking about original paintings selling for, what was it, close to 75,000 US dollars.
Yep. His piece, Hey Keen, from 2022, that one went for $21,000. So this is someone who used logic and engineer's mindset to build this incredibly valuable and super consistent visual brand.
Okay, so that's the mission for today. Let's really break this down. How does an engineer with absolutely no formal training become this global name in what you can only call cinematic digital art?
We're going to look at it through four lenses. First, his psychology as a creator, then the art history roots of his style, after that, the engineer's design method, and finally, the actual painting techniques that make it all happen.
And for you listening, I think the big takeaway here is efficiency. He figured out how to get maximum impact with, let's be honest, minimum wasted effort.
It's all about creating that epic classical feeling, but with a modern, really optimized workflow. It's a masterclass.
So let's start at the very beginning, with the engine behind it all, the creator psychology. He graduated from the University of Hong Kong.
That's right, with a degree in information engineering. He only started dabbling in digital art in college, and he was driven by something he calls Zenian.
Zenian, what does that translate to, roughly?
It's like a crazy obsession, a deep, relentless need to get these high fantasy worlds that were in his head out into the open.
So this wasn't just a casual hobby.
No, this is a compulsion. And it's what kept him going. Because, he really struggled at first when he first posted his work online in these CG forums.
I can imagine.
Yeah. He was apparently mocked by professional art students. They called his work incomplete, and it made him feel like he could never catch up, that he didn't have the foundation.
That's brutal. So how do you go from that, from being demoralized online to becoming WLOP? What was the turning point?
Well, that was the key psychological shift. He decided to see his background not as a flaw, but as a feature, as a strength.
He reframed it.
Completely. He realized all that academic dogma, the strict rules about anatomy and rendering every single detail perfectly. That was a box he didn't have to be in. He was free to just follow his own instincts.
It almost sounds like his art is so pure because it's not his job. He doesn't have to please a client.
Exactly. Programming is his day job. Art is his passion. He believes the emotion of the scene, the kingshu, is way more important than technical perfection. That's why he stops.
Stops before it's finished.
Right when the feeling is there. He leaves things blurry, atmospheric. He leaves room for the viewer. He calls that leftover space possibility.
And that's the charm of his work, that deliberate incompleteness.
It really is. It hooks you emotionally way more than a technically perfect but totally cold piece of art ever could.
Okay, so that powerful obsession explains the why, but let's get into the how. Because when I look at his work, the compositions, they feel so grounded in art history. It has this epic classical scale.
You're spot on. This isn't just some modern digital art trend. His work is a direct descendant of 19th century European painting, specifically New Romanticism.
New Romanticism.
Yeah, think about his Ghostbleed series. It's all about capturing the sublime, called Chongaogen, which is that feeling of awe, of grandeur, sometimes even a little bit of terror.
Like when you see a tiny lone figure standing against this impossibly huge landscape or building.
Precisely. He's channeling artists like Caspar David Friedrich. The human is small, and the environment or the story is overwhelming. He's just doing it with a Wacom tablet instead of oil on canvas.
And on a technical level, I've heard him compared to John Singer's Sargent, which feels like, the highest possible praise.
It's a very, very good comparison. And it's specifically about brush economy, about visual deception, really.
How so?
Well, Sargent's portraits, from a distance, they look photorealistic, insanely detailed, but you get up close.
And it's just a few confident brushstrokes.
Exactly, just rough, impressionistic marks. WLOP does the exact same thing, but digitally. He avoids hard lines and instead uses contrast to build everything.
He's defining form with light and shadow, not with line work.
Yes, chiaroscuro. That high contrast between light and dark and these really beautiful shifts from warm light to cool shadows, that's what carves out his figures. The very modern digital take on impressionist ideas.
We have to talk about his characters, especially his female protagonists. There's a reason for the whole "my wife" phenomenon online.
The WLOP phenomenon, yeah. It's huge, and there's a specific psychological formula to their appeal.
It's not just that they're beautiful.
No, it's a very intentional blend of two things. Fragility.
Fragility and godliness, that's an interesting mix.
Right. They seem delicate, maybe a little bit lonely, but they have this powerful, serene aura. It's what's called yusui de mei, or fragile beauty. It's designed to make the viewer feel this pull, this desire to protect them, but at the same time, they feel completely unattainable.
So it's emotionally complex, it's vulnerability and power all at once.
And that complexity is what gives his characters such massive, widespread appeal. It hits on a fundamental human emotion, not just a technical checklist of what makes art good.
Which brings us right to the core paradox here. The engineer's mind, creating this incredibly romantic art. If the passion is the fuel, the actual execution seems to be pure logic.
This is where his engineering degree really comes out to play. His entire design method is basically a visual weight algorithm. It's a rational system for allocating his effort.
Meaning he puts all his energy into the parts of the image that give the most bang for their buck.
You got it. He puts about 80% of his effort into the 20% of the image that has the highest impact.
Which is the face, the eyes, and the main light source. And everything else is just atmosphere.
It's pure resource allocation with almost mathematical precision. If you zoom into a high-res piece, you'll see the skin on the face is blended perfectly, the eyes are hyper-detailed, but the background, the clothes, it gets very blurry, very abstract, very fast.
So he's essentially throwing away visually redundant information. It's like image compression, but for a painting.
That is a perfect analogy. He's compressing the visual data, getting rid of anything you don't strictly need to feel the emotion of the scene. It saves him a massive amount of time, and that efficiency is now part of his signature style.
Which leads us to his painting technique, this idea of detail without detail. You see a piece of jewelry and it looks real, but you zoom in and it's just like two sharp strokes of white paint.
It is all about controlling your eye. He forces you to look away from the messy, unfinished parts like the background and directs your focus straight to the hyper-rendered areas, like the soft, smooth skin.
It's all about contrast.
Contrast is king, absolutely. It's always soft skin next to hard metal, a super detailed area next to a big blurry area, matte surfaces next to shiny ones. These contrasts trick your brain into thinking the detailed parts are even more detailed than they actually are.
And then there's his signature lighting, that really sharp line between light and shadow. It's like all his characters are under a single, harsh spotlight.
That's his cut light technique, or Kikwang. These incredibly crisp edges between light and shadow. It's dramatic, it's theatrical, but it's also incredibly functional. It guides your eye with, like, military precision.
There's a more practical reason for it too, isn't there?
Oh yeah, it's very strategic. That perfect controlled light is a great way to compensate for any let's say, shortcomings in his anatomy from being self-taught. If the underlying structure isn't perfect, this dramatic lighting just blasts right over it, hides the flaw, and enhances the mood instead.
So it's a solution. It's an engineer's solution to an artistic problem.
Totally. And he uses specific digital tools to get that amazing glow, that realism. He uses the color dodge blend mode a lot with a soft brush at low opacity.
That's what gives the skin that translucent look.
That's it. It creates that subsurface scattering effect where light seems to glow from within the skin, especially right on the edge where light meets shadow.
And the whole process starts with an engineer's logic, too. He begins in grayscale.
Always. He builds the entire light and dark map first. He makes sure the values, the composition, the lighting, all of it works perfectly black and white before he even thinks about color.
He's ensuring the foundation is solid.
He's eliminating like 80% of what can go wrong before he even starts. Then the software engineer kicks in. He uses the Photoshop Curves tool.
Which lets him add color to the shadows, midtones, and highlights separately.
Exactly. It's incredibly precise and controllable. It turns coloring into this careful adjustment process instead of a chaotic mess of mixing paint.
Okay, so let's track the evolution here. Over the last 10 years or so, his style is always recognizable, but the method has clearly changed.
The aesthetic is the constant, for sure. But the process has taken a huge technical leap. His early work, from around 2013, was sometimes described by critics as having fat lips, dirty skin.
A bit rough around the edges.
Yeah, a lack of rendering finesse. Compare that to a later piece like Haking, which gets described with phrases like ice jade bones. That's a decade of pure refinement.
But the biggest change is the move to 3D, right?
That's the pivot. In his more complex recent work, he's not just sketching in 2D anymore. He's often building 3D models of his scenes or characters first.
So he builds the whole set, the architecture the character poses in a 3D program to get the perspective and lighting just right.
Precisely. It's the ultimate engineer's tool for efficiency. He can build these massive cinematic scenes way faster, and the lighting is perfectly consistent. Then he takes that 3D render and just paints over it. He uses his cut light and color dodge techniques to make it look exactly like one of his 2D paintings.
He's using the rational tools of computer science to tell these deeply emotional, romantic stories. It's the perfect synthesis of his two worlds.
It really is. I mean, the big takeaway here is that his success comes from this perfect marriage of rational logic, the engineer's mindset, and sensibility, that romantic, artistic drive. He's using ultra-modern tools to bring back a classical spirit.
So wrapping this all up, what's the lesson here for the rest of us? It seems to come back to that idea of visual weight, of contrast.
I think so. He understands where to put the detail to trick your eye. He doesn't just paint the subject, he paints the contrast around the subject. The soft skin next to the hard metal, the detailed face against the blurred background.
It's about painting the relationship between things, not just the things themselves.
Right. And, it makes you think, what are the secondary blurred out things we're ignoring in our own work or our own lives? Are we obsessing over details that don't actually matter?
Maybe the most powerful meaning is found in the context, in the negative space. What are you blurring out that should actually be your main focus?
That's the question.
Something to think about. Thank you for diving deep with us into the incredible world of the engineer artist, WLOP. We'll see you next time.